On today's show, I'm going to tell you why Cooper Flagg doesn't just make the Mavericks better in the long term, but makes them better right now. Day one, he'll make them better. Tell you why in today's Locked On Mavs.
Stop it! Stop! The number one pick will go to the Dallas Mavericks. Cooper Flagg will fly in Dallas.
Dogs, all of us, all five.
You are Locked On Mavs, your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Still can't leave.
Your team every day.
I'm gonna get a city like that.
And welcome. You're locked on to the Dallas Mavericks, your team every day. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member covering the Dallas Mavericks for 10 years. Thanks for being every day, making Locked On Mavs your first listen. Today's episode, we're going to get into why Cooper Flagg makes the Mavs better from day one. We'll also talk about some Mavs rumors. A coach is staying, which is good for the Mavs. Also, Dante Exum. You good with Dante Exum coming back? Well, let's start here. We've talked a lot about Cooper Flagg and how he extends the Mavs timeline and about how he changes everything for the Dallas Mavericks. And we talk a lot about the long term of it. That, all right, there's this timeline with Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving, and the Mavs have this, win now team. And we're like, all right, but how does Cooper Flagg fit into all that? And what should the Mavs be thinking about long term? And yeah, I know I've done the blow it up show, or like, all right, well, if you're really thinking about just Cooper Flagg, then you should get a bunch of assets to plan for your future. But Cooper Flagg will make the Mavericks better from day one. I've been clear on that too. He is the best player the Mavs could have gotten in free agency, a trade, or anything without giving up Kyrie, Anthony Davis, multiple firsts, and all that. From day one, he'll be a better player than anybody they could have gotten. And so he's the best offseason addition for this next season, for 2025, 2026, that the Mavs could have. And I went through a bunch of different profiles from people that have watched all of his games, or a lot of his games, all the scouts that the media scouts that and just grab some quotes about why he's going to make the Mavs better from day one, because I think there's a lot of reasons for it. Obviously, defensively, we've heard so much about Cooper Flagg defensively. That's where he makes his mark in the NBA. The classic one that I keep coming back to is Rafael Barlow, Locked On NBA Big Board. On the defensive end is where Flagg is special. He's the most dominant high school defender I've ever scouted. It epitomizes the term game changer. He's a versatile defender, size, speed, and strength to guard all over the floor. He's an elite rim protector, often making opponents think twice before entering the paint, making the restricted area his own personal no-fly zone. That's a player that would make the Mavericks better right now. A 6'9" player with a 7-foot wingspan that can... It epitomizes the term game changer, versatile all over the floor, size, speed, elite rim protector that you're adding to Anthony Davis and Lively and Gafford and everything else that you have on this team right now. He makes his own personal no-fly zone. That was the thing that's going to make the Mavericks better right now. Walling off the paint even more, defending multiple positions even more than some of the guys the Mavs have right now. The way that you can just put him in any single position on defense and he can make that spot better for the Mavericks. Obviously, defense is a way that he's going to be a lot better. But we've talked a lot about defense, and so I didn't want to focus just on defense. So I grabbed a lot of offensive quotes from people. Jonathan Givony of ESPN had an article where he had a bunch of executives from the NBA that he had quoted from throughout the year. So this is like all throughout Cooper Flagg's year at Duke, not just right now. One Western Conference executive said, this was prior to the ACC tournament, he knows how to cut off angles and recovers extremely quickly when he gets beat. He has great instincts around the rim. He moves his feet well on the perimeter. Like, just little things like that will make the Mavericks better, because you're not expecting Cooper Flagg to be a 20 shot per game guy, 15 shot per game guy. There's not many rookies, by the way, that take 15 shots a game. I was looking at that recently, and it's like the ones you would think. It's like your Paolo Bancheros. It's your guys that go onto these terrible teams and have to take all the shots themselves. So Cooper Flagg is not going to be that guy. He's not going to be the take every single shot himself. He's going to have to do these things that Western Conference executive said: cut off angles, recover quickly, great instincts around the rim, moves his feet on the perimeter, both on offense and on defense. And so that's one reason why Cooper Flagg is going to make the Mavs better right now. Kevin O'Connor from Yahoo had a great quote that I thought really embodied what makes Cooper Flagg good on offense and why he's going to help the Mavericks offensively right away. Offensive malleability. Flagg can plug and play anywhere on offense. Doesn't that sound like a player the Mavericks could use right now? You can plug him in anywhere. You can ask him to do pretty much anything. Awesome. Great. Love that. I love that about him. Need him to serve as an on-ball screener, then roll hard into the paint. consider it done. He's an athletic finisher who can thrive in that role, need off-ball duties with spot-up shooting, screening, and cutting. He'll execute that at the highest of levels. Want him to crash the glass? Sure. Since Cooper Flagg is unafraid of contact and has a nose for the ball, all those things, the Mavs are adding a very offensively versatile player that can fill any kind of gaps. And the Mavs are going to have offensive gaps. You've got a great pick and roll guy in Anthony Davis, but he's a pick and roll guy as far as the roller. You need somebody to run it with him. Well, guess what? Cooper Flagg, I would like to see like 5 or 6 Cooper Flagg with the ball, Anthony Davis pick and rolls every game from the Mavs. Sure, make it 10, like especially early on in the season. But that's something I want to see early on is Flagg with the ball because he can do all that stuff. He can be the screener. He can be the ball handler in a pick and roll. We've seen it done. We've seen him run it with Common Malawach at Duke. Like we've seen that run already. And I think that's something that we're going to see from Cooper Flagg early. But the fact that he can plug him into anywhere, and the fact that you can say that on offense and on defense too, is a reason why he's going to make the Mavs better right away. He's going to fill in the gaps for the Mavs. I keep bringing up Luka because the Mavs have not had, Luka is the only other prospect the Mavs have had that is this highly touted or that we think would be this good this early on. With Luka, you had a player that was out front that was, all right, he's going to push us from here. Like he's going to be the one. It's almost like Luka is if you think of a train, Luka was the engine at the front of the train. And if you've ever seen a train with the engine on the back that's like pushing it, you know what I mean? Like the one on the back of the train. Flagg is the train at the back. He's pushing everybody forward. Luka was like leading the way. Flagg's just going to be like, hey, I'm going to be back here doing whatever you guys need to make everybody else better and push them forward. And that's what we got. A couple other quotes about that. One quote from an Eastern Conference executive said the best thing Cooper Flagg does is drive winning. And both of those players I just mentioned drive winning, obviously. But Cooper Flagg drives winning. And the Eastern Conference executive continued. He said, it sounds cliche, but all the intel we've gathered, every interview we've done with current and past coaches, teammates, trainers, etc., all point to the same concept in different variations. It's what fuels him every day. He didn't have anything to prove, really. Going into Duke, and this was a quote from before he even got to Duke. He got to Duke. He made it there. He was going to be the number 1 pick. He had some things to prove while he was at Duke. But it fuels him every day, winning. We go back to the story about how he was playing in an exhibition game and got his nose broken or hurt or whatever, and he comes back with a bandage on his nose like, hey, I'm going to go back into the game. Of course I am. Why would I not? Why would I not go back into the game? Winning fuels him. It drives him. And the fact that he is driven by winning pushes all this other stuff, that he'll do everything else, that he'll do the off-ball duties, the spot-up shooting, the screening, the cutting, the little things like that. He just wants to win at all costs, and he'll execute at the highest levels. Crashing in the offensive glass is another thing. Some people mentioned, Rafael Barlow mentioned this as well. What really sets Flagg apart from his peers is his motor and relentless energy. He dominates games with his hustle and effort and is capable of scoring. Here's something that will make the Mavericks better from day one. You ready for this? He's capable of scoring 10 to 12 points per game just off his energy and activity. He's a beast on the offensive glass and has a nose for the ball. How about that? How about just having a player? You remember Josh Green? Josh Green, every single game, I would mark it in my notes, the Josh Green offensive rebound. Every single game, he would get one offensive rebound that would help the Mavericks in a really big way. Because he was just athletic and he had a nose for the ball, he would just do that. Imagine Cooper Flagg making like 4 or 5 of those a game because he's 6'9" and not 6'5", and because he's the athletic freak that Cooper Flagg is. He's going to do that. He's going to get out in transition. That was another thing a lot of different people talked about with his transition ability. I think Raphael mentioned that one of his great things is his ability to get out in transition. The Mavs they're going to have to figure out between Gafford, Anthony Davis, and Lively, whoever gets the rebound, find Cooper Flagg and toss it to him, right? Like Cooper Flagg's going to have to figure out he shouldn't maybe go to the Cowboys to learn this, but he should learn how to be a better wide receiver and go out there. And he's going to be able to get 10 to 12 points just off of energy, hustle, activity, getting out in transition. And that's something that will make the Mavs better. Coming up, one other thing that will make the Mavericks better from day one from Cooper Flagg, and it maybe is the most important one. We'll get into that and more coming up. Today's Locked On Mavs. Today's Locked On Mavs brought to you by Open Phone. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had an urgent need, maybe for a plumber or a service provider. If the person didn't answer, did you wait? No, I never wait. I'm always like, all right, you not answering the phone? There's that episode of Bob's Burgers where he's calling the guy and he's like, man, it sounds like you would want to answer the phone if you were a business. And then the guy answers the phone. He's like, what did you say? You don't want that to happen to you. You don't want Bob to be on the other line of the phone. That's why you need Open Phone. It's the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. You also have a shared inbox feature that helps you to be able to, anybody from your team can jump in on those conversations instantly without missing a beat. And Open Phone is offering our listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. If you have existing numbers with another service, Open Phone will port them over at no extra charge. Open Phone, no missed calls, no missed customers. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs, being part of the show, part of the Raccoon Squad. That's what we call our listeners, the Raccoon Squad. Gotta love it. Let it ride, Raccoon Squad. We have a text line. Text the show, support us, and you get text alerts on every single Mavs rumor. I think I sent 3 or 4 today of different things that are happening around the Mavs, different rumors, and I'll send you my thoughts on it. I don't tweet them. I text them right away. Be a Mavs Locked On Mavs Insider 214-643-8637, or check the link in the description. All right. We're talking about ways that Cooper Flagg will make the Dallas Mavericks better from day one, because we talked a lot about the timeline and about how this is a future play. And now the Mavs have this young core with Lively and Flagg, but he's going to make the Mavericks better from day one for sure. This I am sure of. A lot of different defensive reasons, a lot of offensive reasons that I've gotten into here. Jonathan Gavoni of ESPN, another one. Here's one that just changes everything. Flagg's fast processing speed and natural basketball instincts also manifest in his passing. He's highly unselfish, sometimes to a fault, while making the game easier for opponents' ability to push the ball ahead in transition, make touch passes around the perimeter or in the post, and execute offensively are advanced for a player of his age. Him talking about the passing is one thing that I'll get into, but it's fast processing speed and natural basketball instincts. Like just to even have that, that's something you need at the next level. And that's why he was able to translate from being 17 years old to being the #1 player in college basketball, is because of his fast processing speed. You show him something, you show him a look, you show him, an offensive move, you show him some kind of counter, he's going to be able to counter it quicker. And that's what makes you a good defender. And then that's what makes you a good offensive player too, is to be able to plan ahead and to be able to go through, all right, I got fast processing speed. What's the defense giving me? Okay, there's guys in the gaps. I'm going to do this. Or there's a guy in front of me. Oh, there's a guy coming, coming around the corner. Okay, all of a sudden I need to do this. And then the instincts to be able to make the right play when you recognize all those different things. Boom. That's a #1 pick. That's a #1 pick. And he's going to help make the Mavericks better right away. I believe it. I'm excited for it. I'm excited to see what he's going to bring. And one of the other things he's going to bring is the passing that Gavoni mentioned in this quote too. The passing, the Mavericks need so badly on this team. They won't be an isolation heavy team anymore. They're going to have to change the offense. It's just going to be different, especially with Kyrie Irving out. You just don't have the guys to be able to give the ball and say, all right, go get a bucket. Anthony Davis, every once in a while, sure. Daniel Gafford, dump it down to him, get a bucket every once in a while, sure. PJ Washington will have his post up to start the game every game. If he starts, probably, right? Like we'll have those plays. Flagg will be able to do that every once in a while. Go get a bucket, cross up a guy, take advantage of a mismatch. He's playing the 3. And so will there be small forwards out there that he's going to be bigger than? Yeah. He's going to be able to take advantage of some of those guys. But the thing is, they're going to need to play a different level of offense. And I think they're going to need to be a higher passing rate offense. They're not going to be able to rely on isolations as much as they have in the past. And so Cooper Flagg, being this really good passer, highly unselfish, sometimes to a fault, making the game easy for teammates, the Mavs need that. They're going to need somebody to lift everybody. It felt like at the end of the season last year, the Mavs just so badly needed somebody to come in and lift everybody, right? Like, all right, let's just put everybody in place. They just needed that pure point guard so badly. And that's why we've been talking about point guards so much this offseason. Is we're like, hey, they need another one of those. Even if Kyrie comes back, they still need one more, because they just need somebody to lift everybody. And maybe Cooper Flagg is that guy. Maybe by the time Kyrie comes back, we go, all right, the Mavs have their 2 playmakers. It's Kyrie and it's Flagg. And that's going to be enough. And then obviously Anthony Davis making his own plays. Like that those 3 may be enough by the end of the season. We're not sure. We'll see. Another thing about Cooper Flagg that makes him better and was going to make the Mavs better from day one. That Eastern Conference executive talked about the best thing about Cooper Flagg is his drive to win. In every interview, all the intel they've gathered, current, past coaches, teammates, trainers, they said, all point to the same concept in different variation. It's what fuels him every day. He's going to do what it takes to get better. He's already done it. He'll do it again. You reclassify because you think you're ready for the NBA early and because you want that big contract. So especially early, he's going to push every day. What else is he going to do? He can't even drink. what else is he going to do? But it's what fuels him. And I'm excited to see how he grows because we've already seen him add more, offensive moves to his bag. We've already seen him add a 3-point shot or get better at his 3-point shot. That was a question people had going into his first year. I was reading the No Ceilings blog. They have, they do a lot of draft stuff as well. And one guy said, I think it was Stephen Gillespie said, to be completely transparent, I was one of those people that had Dylan Harper as the top prospect on my board. I thought Cooper showed real signs of concern with his jumper. And then he was proven wrong through the first season. That was a question Cooper Flagg had to answer for a lot of people. And he went and answered that. He went and proved that. And so what is he going to add? How is he going to get better every single day? That mentality, that drive will help make the Mavericks better. Sam Vecini of The Athletic mentioned this. Flagg is about as competitive as you'll find on the court, will bring a serious degree of work ethic into whatever situation he arrives. He wants to be great. There's no red flag in terms of entitlement here. He's all about winning and immediately become the centerpiece of whatever organization drafts him. It's kind of crazy because he's not really Anthony Davis is still a top 10 player. So Anthony Davis will still be the centerpiece of this team. So it is kind of funny. And he also wouldn't have been the centerpiece of Wembanyama, of the Spurs with Wembanyama. So there's a couple examples in the lottery where he wouldn't have been. And this is one of them. He's not going to be the centerpiece. But what he is going to be is the future. And he's also with that, there's no red flags in terms of entitlement here. That quote from Vecini, that's going to serve him so well in this first year. Because some players come in and they're like, all right, this is my show now. I'm the number one guy. I'm the main event. That's one of his nicknames, by the way. It's the main event. I started looking through some of his nicknames. I started looking through some of Cooper Flagg's nicknames, and there's this thread. I'm just going to completely go off the rails by myself here. The main event was the one, and Maine spelled like the state Maine. All right, I'm okay with it. I don't think I'm going to call him that. I can imagine Mark Followell having a moment where Cooper Flagg is out in transition, and then he hits a huge dunk, cocks it back and puts it right in the bucket. And he goes, and the main event is here in Dallas. Can you imagine Mark Followell saying that? I can. I can imagine that being a use case for it. A couple of the other ones, another one on that Reddit forum thread said Special Agent Cooper. And he said it was based on Twin Peaks FBI agent Dale Cooper. And I was like, nope, not that one. I'm okay to not call him Special Agent Cooper. It was a dumb nickname. Another one that I said is another one that I saw was White Claw. I'll never call him that, but I did laugh at that one because I thought it was really funny because he's been compared to Kawhi Leonard a lot. Even in that Gavoni article with the ESPN or the other NBA execs, they called him Kawhi Leonard. And so to be called White Claw, very funny to me. Another one just said lobster. That's also funny too, but I don't get it as a nickname, but it is funny because he's from Maine. And then the last one that I saw in that same thread was White Flag. I can't imagine how you would use that one. Okay, maybe all right, here's another follow-up example. Cooper Flagg game winner. And the white flag goes up for the Blazers. Whoever he hits the shot over, whoever he puts down, if he puts that team down, he'll have to say the white flag goes up. Maybe that's a use case for it. Anyway, nicknames. All right, I got ahead of myself. But he's supposed to be the main event. He's supposed to be the guy that everything's built around. But there's no sense of entitlement. That's going to serve him well early on. And so I think that's something that makes the Mavericks better from day one. Coming up, a couple more things about Cooper Flagg, and then The Mavs are keeping Sean Sweeney. I'll tell you why that's a great thing for the Mavericks. And we'll also talk about Dante Exum. The Mavericks cannot go into next season with the same guard rotation. We'll talk about that and more coming up. Today's episode of Locked On Mavs. Today's episode of Locked On Mavs brought to you by BetterHelp. Man, I'm in a season of my life where I just have things that I need to talk through. And so I've been going to therapy. I've used BetterHelp before in the past, and it's helped me. Let's talk about something we don't get talked about enough, men's mental health. I don't know. I feel like I talk about my own a lot. But there's always pressure to always keep it together, to perform, to provide, never show weakness. That's what I do on this show. I perform, I provide. I never show weakness on this show. But I do in therapy a lot. 6 million men in the U.S. experience depression, and many go undiagnosed. But talk to somebody, a friend, a loved one, or a therapist. It can make a huge difference. It did for me. You can learn how to set boundaries, healthy coping tools, and be the best version of yourself. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, we're talking about Cooper Flagg and why he'll make the Mavericks better from day one. A lot of quotes from different people of just glowing things about how good he is and how versatile he is and the different things that he can do. A couple more things here. Jonathan Givony also talked about him at the combine. He measured at 6 foot, just about 6'8", 6'7" 3/4", 221 pounds, an inch taller than at the Hoop Summit a year before, and 12 pounds heavier. He had dimensions comparable to those of Scottie Pippen. He's getting bigger. Don't make the Mavericks better from day one. You got a 6'8" guy without shoes with a 7-foot wingspan that is putting on muscle. Great. We'll absolutely make the Mavericks better. He also talked about how he was at the combine and how he was cheering everybody on and just blowing everybody out of the water with the things that he did at the combine. And I just think that kind of player that, first of all, is doing the combine and doing a lot of things in the combine is a player that you want on your team, that is not skipping it for whatever reason people have said in the past. And I think that's significant for sure. All right. Shams Charania reports that the Mavs assistant coach Sean Sweeney is not one of the final 2 candidates to be head coach of the Phoenix Suns. The Suns are choosing between 2 Cavs assistant coaches, Jordan Ott and Johnny Bryant. Great for them. Excellent. Good for them. Hopefully one of them gets that job, and hopefully one of them wanted that job, because I don't know if I would want to coach the Phoenix Suns right now, but we'll see. But the Mavs keeping Sean Sweeney is significant. Massive for the Mavericks. Losing him would have hurt. They would have had to replace him in some way. He's been basically the right-hand man to Jason Kidd. He's run the offense at times. He's run the defense at times. And he has gotten all these head coaching interviews for a reason, that he's a rising star in the industry, and a lot of people covet him and what he can do and see potential in him. And it's good to have that still with the Mavericks. And I think that's a big positive. And so the Suns' loss potentially is the Mavericks, continued gain, keeping Sean Sweeney. And so I think I'll just leave it at that, I think that's a big thing. He's also run the defense in the past, and the Mavs want to be this defensive team. And so sometimes they'll switch. There's a point, I think last year, where Sean Sweeney was defense the year before, and then he switched to offense. And so maybe they'll do the same thing this year. Who knows what they're going to be assigned to? But if he's running the defense again this year, then that's going to be huge, because the Mavs are going to have to be a great defensive team to do anything in any kind of playoff run. They're going to have to. And Sean Sweeney will have to be at the center of that as far as coaching. Last thing here is Dante Exum. So Mark Stein reports that there have been some reports abroad about Turkey powerhouse Fenerbahce trying to lure Mavericks unrestricted free agent to be Dante Exum back to Europe, but it's believed that Exum's preference is to remain in the NBA. In fact, Exum and the Mavericks have mutual interest in hashing out a new deal. There is likely still a role with the Mavericks for Exum, depending on, of course, how the rest of the roster takes shape. I'll start with this. It would be great to have Dante Exum back, especially at a minimum. If you could bring him back and figure out that deal, and you could bring him back and he'd be one of the point guards the Mavs bring in. But the Mavs cannot do this. They cannot bring back Dinwiddie on a minimum, Exum on a minimum, and have Brandon Williams and be like, we got our point guards. This is how we're gonna go through the beginning of the season. I don't think they can do that. You did not have enough offense. I know Cooper Flagg will help make them better. I know having a healthy and starting the season, Anthony Davis is gonna make the Mavs offense better. The Mavs offense will not be good enough to stay afloat to the level that they want with Exum, Dinwiddie, Brandon Williams trying to run the show the way they did at the end of the last season. They got to have an upgrade there. There's got to be somebody else that's brought in. Either it's a Chris Paul, a Kobe White we've talked about. Maybe the Austin Reeves trade goes through. There's got to be somebody else in that spot. And so it'd be great to have Exum back in some kind of role. He's a guard that brings size. He every once in a while will win you a game with a 3-point shot. He brings some playmaking as well. He obviously knows the Mavs system. He's played with a lot of these guys that are now on the team. And he's kind of that role player that fits into a bunch of different scenarios. And you can play him with a point guard. You can play him as the point guard. You can play him as a smaller 3 with a couple other guards too. Like he can play in a couple different spots. And that's valuable for a team that has a bunch of guys that are versatile like that. You can put a bunch of different combinations together. And so I think that's something that's pretty interesting for the Mavs, is to have him have some preference to come back. But I wonder what Fenerbahce is offering him, because if they're offering more than a minimum, a couple $1 million, then that could be enticing, because it's probably going to be a bigger role than what the Mavericks have. But who knows? We'll see. I'm excited to see what happens with that, and I'm excited to see how the Mavericks add another guard, because they absolutely have to. It's like not an option for the Mavericks to not add another guard. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. We'll be back tomorrow with more on the Mavs and more Mavs rumors throughout the offseason. Isaac and I will be covering that every single day. And man, we're just kind of sitting waiting until Paige Beckers comes back from her concussion. That's what I'm waiting for, the Dallas Wings. What are you waiting on in life? Guys, thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On Mavs. Check the QR code and different ways to follow the show and the links in the description. Thanks so much for listening to Locked On Mavs.
Peace out.